Hi there, Richard Filmer here, and welcome to another Richard's Rock Rambles Hidden Gems album. So this band that we're going to chat about today didn't last very long. In fact, these guys recorded the album, broke up, weren't even there to see the release of it. So there was no tour, there was nothing going on. They got together, they sounded amazing, did a really great album, and then decided they didn't like each other. Musical differences. What can I say? It happens in rock. And definitely one of those bands where it's one of those what if situations. You know, what if these guys had stayed together? And what if there hadn't been those musical differences? Because for me, they had enough potential to become a Led Zeppelin or a Deep Purple or a Black Sabbath or any of the other great bands at the time, early 70s. So the band we're chatting about is an English band called Hound. They made one album called Growers of Mushroom. And this album has become quite a collector's item, especially if you have one in mint condition on vinyl. It fetches astronomical prices online. Or even one that's not perhaps mint but in good nick can fetch quite a bit of money. It's become one of those real sort of holy grail type albums that collectors are always after, and for good reason. The style of rock that Hound had was more sort of like stoner, hard blues rock, very indicative of the time. A lot of it reminded me of early power trio stuff like Grand Funk, especially in the bass work, which was very upfront in the mix. They were blessed with an incredible vocalist by the name of Pete French, who would, after Hound, sing for a bit for the American band Cactus, and his voice was a perfect fit for that band. I think he took the place of Rusty Day, the original Cactus vocalist. And he also sang for another great British band, Atomic Rooster. So he had a bit of pedigree as well, and I think he also has released quite a few solo albums. So they released this album in the early 70s, and that was it. The comeback album, believe it or not, was only released in 2004. And if memory serves, it was called Unleashed. I actually have it on CD here. It's okay, for what it is, but it doesn't come anywhere near the debut. So let me show you, before I show you what the album looks like, it was recorded at Spot Studios in London in 1970 on the great Decca label and released the following year in 1971. And like I said, they didn't tour because they'd already broken up. Excuse me, it's a hot day today here in Cape Town, in spite of it being winter. So, the styles, hard rock, psychedelic, and stoner album. That's pretty much what it is. There's a few sort of slower tracks with a little bit of acoustic guitar thrown in, but for the most part, it's a riff-based album, good bluesy hard rock, and a great singer in Pete French. And the whole album took 11 hours to record, so they weren't messing around. This wasn't a weeks and months album. This was 11 hours and done. And like I said, the second album Unleashed released 33 years later in 2004. So the guys in the band, you had Pete French on vocals, excellent singer, nice gruff, bluesy rock voice. Robert Plantish, I would imagine. That's why there's a lot of Zeppelin comparisons with this band. Michael Halls on lead guitar. And then you had two brothers in the band who actually were the cause of the band breaking up. They weren't happy with the direction the band was going, and they were having issues with musical differences. So the two brothers are Derek Brooks on rhythm guitar and Stuart Brooks on bass. Excellent bassist. A lot of these tracks you can hear. I haven't heard a bass sound like this since, Mel Schacher from Grand Funk, the early Grand Funk stuff. Right up front in the mix, in your face kind of bass guitar work. Same here with Hound. And then on drums you had a guy called Keith Young. So that's the band. And that is the album. I love that cover. Apparently the title of the album has got nothing to do with drugs. These guys were pretty anti-drugs. They weren't into that scene at all. Not quite sure what the whole growers Growers of Mushroom is supposed to apply to, but that's the name of the album. And that's the cover there. So this is re-released on that great German label Repertoire, which has got some incredible old releases, re-releases, and a really good production on this album. And what they've done on here is they've also put on 2 bonus tracks. Track 10 is It's Gonna Get Better, and 11 is Hip Shaker. Hip Shaker is a really cool track. Quite a good riff to it as well. That's what I like about this band. Some of the riffs are amazing. Not quite as heavy as Black Sabbath, but going in that direction. Almost a little bit like Budgie as well. And then what they did on here is a special bonus track, Too Many Rock and Roll Times, new recording from the forthcoming album Unleashed. So this was re-released before the new album came out. So like I said, on the Repertoire label, let me see if I can show you what they put in here is a little flyer for Repertoire Records. You can see some of the albums that you can get on this label. Some great stuff. Family, Renaissance over there, Spyro Gyra, not the jazz group Spyro Gyra. What else have they got in here? Gentle Giant, the Climax Blues Band, Gravy Train, all sorts of cool albums that you can get on this label. And as far as I know, these albums are still in print. So let's see if I can show you anything inside. That's a cool sort of late 60s, early 70s druggy type image there, although these guys were not into drugs. So they say. One never knows, of course. There we go. So let's have a look. That's the guys over there. And I'll go through the tracks just now. So this just tells you all about the album, how the band got together, what happened to them, etc., etc. There we go. Let's see if there's any other photographs of the band. There we go. I think that was Pete French, the vocalist over there. Nice that you had a rhythm guitarist as well. Just gives it a slightly fatter feel. There's a shot of the guys live. There's all the lyrics to the songs, which is cool. And there's another live shot. And I think at the back here, they give you all the rundown Hound LPs, singles. Then it tells you Atomic Rooster. These are all the albums that Pete French appeared on. So he was one in hearing of with Atomic Rooster, Home to Roost. And then with Cactus, he was on an album called Hot and Sweaty, or Hot and Sweaty, which is actually a really cool power trio album if you're looking for that kind of stuff. Randy Pie. Then he had a bunch of solo albums as well, and compilations, etc., etc. And that's all at the back here, which is always interesting. So the all-important songs starts off with Freelance Fiend, which I think was a single off this album. Great riff, typical early 70s hard rock kind of song. As I said, great bass work. The only thing I have an issue with in this album is the drums are a bit soft. If they'd been a little bit more higher in the mix, this could have been almost like the debut Zeppelin, you know, that kind of sound. So the production was a little iffy. It could have been a little better in my books. Sad Road to the Sea, slightly slower track. I think there's a nice bit of acoustic in there as well. Drowned My Life in Fear is cool. Work My Body, that's a cool track. Nice riff. And that track reminds me, parts of it reminds me of Ramble On by Led Zeppelin. Very similar style to the song. And obviously, you know, all the bands in that time, they were being influenced by Zeppelin. Of course, Zeppelin had been happening since 1969. So this was in 1970. So, you know, obviously a lot of that's going to rub off on other bands, and they want to try and emulate Zeppelin. And these guys came pretty close. Then you had a track called Stray, which is another cool rocker with A Minute to Go. The title track, Growers of Mushroom, excellent track. Pete French's vocals on this whole album are very strong. Stagnant Pool and Sawdust Caesar. Sorry, the writing on here is very interesting. Sawdust Caesar is the last track. And then there's the 2 bonus tracks, It's Gonna Get Better and Hip Shaker, like I mentioned previously. If you don't have this in your collection and you're a fan of early 70s hard rock, stroke stoner, stroke psychedelic, or Zeppelin, like, this is a must-have. And if you have it already, on vinyl in good nick, hang on to it because it's worth quite a bit of money. Don't sell it, or if you really need the cash. But it's a collector's item, that's for sure. And it's such a shame that these guys couldn't stick together. You know, just this album, and then many years later, 2004, they haven't been heard of since that second album, so I'm not sure if they even a going concern anymore. But Pete French, definitely one of my top vocalists from the 70s, in the sort of unknown or lesser known character for vocalists. So there we go. Growers of Mushroom by Hound. Grab it if you see it. I'll catch you guys again soon. Take it easy out there. If you haven't yet, please down below, give me a thumbs up. Any comments, more than welcome. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Take it easy, and I'll catch you soon. Cheers.